Welcome to the B.Y.O.B show, hosted by mortgage expert Dan Carson and brought to you by Willow Bend Mortgage. The B.Y.O.B show is powered by the Thedifference radio live stream and podcast network. So grab your popcorn and notepad because the B.Y.O.B show starts now.
Hey everyone, Dan Carson here, Willow Bend Mortgage. This is Build Your Own Business podcast. Excited to have an awesome guest on the show today. It's a good friend, business partner, Collin Fahrenkoph. He's with Fairmont Homes. He's a local builder in the Dallas market, but he's also doing some really exciting things up in Oklahoma and Broken Bow. As many people know, there's a big market there for AirBNB, VRBO type short-term rentals, and got several friends that have invested up there and really enjoy what they're doing there. Really cool things happening in that market as a secondary residence market from Dallas sites. So got Collin on the show today. We're going to pick his brain a little bit about the local market and also what's going on in Broken Bow. So lots of great information from the guy. He's a great friend. We've done everything from ski trips together to, he's a big foodie like I am, and just really enjoy his company. So excited to have him on. Collin, welcome to the show.
Dan, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So it's we're braving this weather right now. It looks like, did you go into your office or are you home today?
I'm in the office today, the only one here in the building.
Same here. It's me and the security guard at our office as well. And the last month has just been kind of crazy with weather, and I feel like my phone's probably going to ring 100 times while we're filming this. But everybody, I feel like it's one of those days where people are going to try to get a lot of stuff done. So I know it's always nice in the builder world to get a little bit of catch up. From your end, so what's going on in the Dallas market that's impacting you from the spec builder side, custom build side? Tell us a little bit about what you're doing in Fairmont and then some of the things that are impacting you.
Yeah. Once again, Dan, thanks for having me on the show. I think from a builder standpoint, majority of the stuff that I do is spec houses here in Dallas. There's a handful of customs that I will do here and there, but majority of my business, as I mentioned, is on the spec side. We're in a very interesting market right now. I think whether you look at Dallas, Broken Bow, as you mentioned earlier, or across the country, not only from a supply and demand standpoint, from a consumer, but supply chain constraints. Land costs, demand, etc. Across the board. Pre-COVID, it was pretty easy to model out a project and say, hey, I'm going to pay X for the land, Y for this is my material cost, Z this is my labor cost. Here's where I can probably sell it on the back end, and it's a pretty simple formula for the most part. Where now you can kind of throw all those numbers out the window. As we all know, that the DFW market is on fire. Not only is there local demand, locally, domestic across the country, there's also international money that's piling in from everywhere that's looking for land here, from retail to commercial as well. Really once a lot hits the market, as we all know, it's a multiple offer situation. You've got to pay cash. You've got to act quickly. Which kind of makes it a little bit harder to kind of model projects out. Then you throw in material costs. I mean, from day to day, material costs are changing. We're getting 20 and 30% price increases on a monthly basis. Last project I just modeled out on a single family attached. I had $100,000 budgeted for my lumber and just got my updated lumber bid back from 2 months ago, and we're at $190,000 on lumber. So you can go ahead, so you throw that on the spec side. The bank's only going to loan you $100,000. Do you have the cash flow to fund that extra $90,000? So, it's really a compounding effect. If you look at it on lumber, well, where's the rest of your budget from windows to tile across the board when we're getting every 2 to 3 months a 20 to 30% price increase? And then let's throw in on top of that labor cost. As we all know, labor is constrained right now. I mean, these are relationships that I've had for 4 or 5 years with guys that I'm struggling with myself. And they can't find qualified help. They can't find guys. I mean, they're just looking for bodies to show up on the job. So you can go ahead and, so now let's throw in time value of money and your carry cost and interest that you're paying on the project where, used to you can model out and say, hey, this is going to be a 6 to 9 month project. No problem. Well, now on projects, a month and a half, 2 months later, we're still framing it, right? And you may say, okay, well, from a monetary standpoint, okay, it's costing you X amount per square foot. What's the big deal? Well, you start, tagging along your carry cost and interest on your construction loan. That starts compounding throughout the build process. So it's making it a little bit harder to model these projects out from a spec side. Now, luckily, the appreciation that we've seen in the market offsets some of those labor and construction costs. And so far, the consumer has been willing to pay for that. Where it'll really get interesting is when we start getting pushback from the consumer.
Right.
So it's
which in this market, I mean, it's going to be hard to predict when that could ever happen, because you still have, I think we have about half the number of home sales that we had in the previous year up to date. Now it's a little bit over 50% in the home sales, but there's twice as many people applying to try to buy homes right now. Correct. So it's a really, really unique market because in your scale that you work in, the average price point, you're kind of between $1 million, 2.5 million, kind of in that range, right?
Yeah.
You do. I know you do some townhomes and duplexes that are under $1 million, kind of in that high balance conventional range. But for the most part, I mean, that's your wheelhouse. And when you're playing with those dollar figures and you're seeing those kinds of increases, I mean, you're dealing with what a lot of other businesses like we are right now, as interest rates rise, kind of like as your lumber prices rise, the cost of money rises, like we're all dealing with shrinking margins. And it takes it, and like you said, it's really cash intensive to try to manage your business right now.
Correct. And Dan, not to this is kind of more your area of expertise. And this is where this is really where in a market like this, where it is very important to have, whether you're going to represent yourself or you're going to have an agent, a real estate agent, having a qualified real estate agent, a qualified lender such as yourself, and a team around you that truly understands the market, especially what's going on now, right? The rapid appreciation that we've seen in the market, and everybody's dealing with it right now, especially you, Dan, on your end, is, hey, I've got 5 offers for, let's just throw out $3 million. Mm-hmm. But guess what? The comps that appraisers are working off of and the data that they have, A, most stuff is selling off market, and B, MLS has not caught up with where the market is with the rapid appreciation, right? So you can kind of throw that in the mix. And then, you get from a lending standpoint, obviously we have a lot of people paying cash right now that are waiving appraisals, but it's kind of affecting everybody all around, from a lending standpoint.
Yeah. And even from with some of the things you said about people buying lots cash, people buying homes cash, and, you've got investment money coming in, foreign money coming in, Wall Street starting to play in the single family arena. All these things are combining together to create this like really, really tough market situation on everybody. But having that team, like you said, can be the difference. And, we have, so because we're a local company, we have a set appraisal panel. So we're going to work with the same 15 to 20 appraisers all the time. So we know like, hey, these 5 guys know this market and they're going to be able to navigate it better and understand the situation than somebody coming over from Fort Worth to do an appraisal in Lakewood, Highland Park, or Lake Highlands. These are all things that really matter right now. And there's not a lot of people that can understand that from a partnership perspective. And people are like, oh, if I try to buy something without a realtor, it's going to save me money. The seller is going to think it's more attractive. But what's happening is that a lot of people are getting into contracts that they don't understand. It's causing issues in the market. And what we really need is for agents and sellers to start taking into consideration families, and stop looking at just the cash offer, because sometimes the finance offer can actually be just as good as the cash. And so everybody's doing a lot more work up front. So we keep saying like, hey, we're doing more free work than we've done in a long time. And it's so that we can help customers actually get under contract so that when they come to you, as a seller and with an offer that's like, hey, we've already done all the work. They're approved. We've done all their documentation. We know that we can close in this time frame, and you can have some peace of mind that they're going to be able to perform on the back end, and you've got an appraiser that actually understands what's going on in the market and the difference in cost of everything that's happened to you over the 18 months that you've been building, 16, 18 months that you can get into sometimes, where it used to take you 6 to 9, it may take you, 12 to 14, 12 to 16, because of all the issues that you're having. And it's really impacting the market in a lot of different ways. And it's some days it's almost like maddening to where you're like, how am I going to do the next one?
Correct. Yeah. And I think to your point, Dan, having, and what I mentioned earlier, and having an experienced team, whether you're custom building, you're buying a spec house, you're a lender, you're an agent. I think the biggest thing for a lot of consumers, and especially in a market that we're in right now, is yes, whether you're on my side of the business or you're a consumer, it's frustrating. It's frustrating for everybody, right? It's a very frustrating market. But the biggest thing that I could say from a consumer standpoint is make sure that you educate yourself on the market and the playing field within where you are, right? Lakewood and M Streets, or Lakewood and Lake Highlands, or University Park, Highland Park, right? 2 or 3 streets can make all the difference in the world, whether something's selling at $100 a square foot or $200 a square foot or $500 or $600 a square foot,
yep.
Right? Have an agent who understands the market. And I think what you also need to understand too is a lot of times consumers are coming into spec houses or houses that are hitting the market saying, there's no way this house sells at this, right? Everybody wants yesterday's price. Prices aren't what they were a month ago. Prices aren't what they were 2 weeks ago. Prices aren't what they were 6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is that most people are like, oh, these builders are making all this money, this and that. Yes, it's a good market, but at the end of the day, the rise that we're seeing in labor costs, material costs, et cetera, offsets a lot of those gains that you think we're actually making throughout the process. And what a consumer needs to understand too is what today's price is, and the product that I'm delivering right now, I can't recreate or redeliver that product.
No.
Right? I can't buy the land for that cheap. I can't buy materials for that cheap, et cetera, all the way across the board. That product cannot be recreated. And I don't see this market in DFW going anywhere in the next, whether it's 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. We're almost in a unicorn of a market here in Dallas. With the demand and the influx of people that we're seeing here, whether it's New York, California, we all know where they're coming from, domestic or foreign people relocating here. But I think what you also need to understand too is a lot of these jobs that are relocating here, these aren't people making $50,000 to $100,000 a year. These are people making $700,000 to $800,000+ a year, right? And come in and stroke a check or pay cash for a $2 or $3 million house. So the people that are moving here and the demographics are rapidly changing as well. Which you could say is good for the market or disrupting the market for your entry level buyers, et cetera. That's a whole different story. But yeah, I mean the corporate reloads here are C-suite executives making $700,000, $800,000+, $1 million+ a year.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that on our end too, and it is impacting because there's a waterfall effect of all of it. Now, when it comes down to it, Dallas is still probably 20-25% less.
It's still affordable
than most of the other major metro areas in the country.
Right.
So we're still we don't even have high balance conforming loans in Dallas yet. You go to Seattle, it's our conventional limit here is 647,200, and in Seattle, it's going to be a much higher dollar amount. In San Francisco, it's going to be in New York. We don't even have that yet because we're still undervalued from a major metropolitan area. And now, we are seeing that impact the market in a lot of different ways. I mean, you can have a $600,000 house go for $200,000 over list, and which is just nuts, but it's what people are having to do. And then, you have people that are flush with cash from those other markets from the appreciation that they picked up on the sale of their homes, where, they could come down here and they're like, man, I can buy 3 times the house that I had in my former market here in Dallas. So, and then you've got 2 generations of first-time home buyers basically competing with each other. You got, basically the late 90s and the millennials all competing for kind of the same price point. in that $400,000, $500,000 range. And it's really tough right now. And then you got cash buyers competing with that too, which comes into some of your lot, like when you're trying to buy a lot or you're trying to buy a teardown, because you'll buy a raw land, but you'll also buy a house that's in a neighborhood that you're like, hey, this is either a remodel or a teardown, but you're going to scrape and rebuild on things too. And you're competing with families trying to buy that home to be their home at the same time.
I mean, who would have thought we would see the day in University Park on a 50 by 140 or 50 by 150 lot? Just think about that. 50 by 150 lot.
Yep.
500 square feet or whatever it is. Hits the market at 1.4, 1.5 and has multiple offers and gets run up to 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 just for the dirt.
Just for the dirt. But that's and I don't think and I think you're right. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I was reading an article the other day that they expect the same level of growth that we've had for the past 2 years to go through 2030. So we're talking like this is like you said, a unicorn market where we've got an 8 to 10 year run where it is just going to be, everything's going to be a dogfight for everyone for a long time. And so it's going to take a lot of staying power and mental strength to get through it because, like you said, it's frustrating on all fronts, but it's kind of the new normal. And, COVID was the start of it. And it because we were, more or less 2018, 2019, it was kind of a middle market, we were it was a consistent standard market. Correct. And now we've gone into a full blown seller's market. And because of the appreciation, because of the control and the lack of inventory that we have in general, and all of the things that you mentioned on the build side, because we can't build houses because guys like you and other like custom builders, remodelers, everybody's competing for the same talent. And, guys will leave over, a dollar per hour from one guy. They'll walk off from 10 cents an hour. Yeah. Somebody walks up, but pulls up in a truck and says, hey, I'll pay you $1 more an hour or 10 cents more an hour. Like, they're like, all right, see you, pick up their tools and go because it doesn't matter. And those are all tough things to build, to build into everything that you're trying to model. So I know what you do is really hard there. And, going into that, I mean, you're building homes in the Broken Bow area and doing a lot of second homes up there. You're speccing those, you're building them, with some investors and like kind of turn them into AirBNB, which is really fun. I mean, I've been to Broken Bow with friends. I have friends that own homes up there that do the short-term rental thing. Love it. It's been great investments for them. But you're probably dealing with even a compounded effect up there compared to what you're dealing with here, just because of, surely the number of people available to do the work.
Yeah. So let's so we'll transition to Broken Bow. It's a very interesting market. I built, I guess just a quick cliff notes. I started building in Jackson, Mississippi was where I started my building career there. So, I've had some time there in Mississippi building that market. I built at Cedar Creek Lake. I'm building over at Lake Granbury right now. And of course, around kind of the DFW urban area, urban infill. And I've never experienced a labor market like I have in Broken Bow. I think any builder you talk to up there, anybody that's looked in Broken Bow has probably experienced the same thing in that most builders are probably a year to two out. Mm-hmm. You look at the build process, it's a longer build process. Materials are harder to come by. Labor in general, bodies to show up are harder to come by, but take it a step further, qualified labor that mm-hmm. meet my expectations, right? Everybody has different expectations. So I think that was one of the, one of the biggest adjustments, which we're trying to work through in that market is, if you think you're going to go in there and build it in a 6 to 9 month time frame, it's not going to happen. Yeah. It ain't going to happen, right? There's just not enough labor to go around. But I guess aside from that, from a labor standpoint, let's just talk kind of about Broken Bow as a whole. There's a lot of opportunity there. What really attracted me to Broken Bow, which the first couple of times I went there, I was like, okay, what's so special about this place, right? Yeah. You go to a cabin, you go to the woods, you go with a bunch of friends, you go hang out for the weekend, great time, let's have a great time, right? There wasn't a whole lot of retail, not a whole lot of restaurants. which that's come a long way and is going to continue to grow there. But kind of what was attractive to me from an investment standpoint is that the residential base, that people were there, right? Where sometimes you see in high growth areas where you have commercial and retail that come first, but there's not residential there to fill that void or to spend the consumer to spend the money, right? So and actually the development that I'm in, Woodland Hills, where I've got 11 cabins going right now, is the developer there has actually got a 20-acre tract on the frontage of 259 where he's got a 3-phase development. He's trying to get wine bar, coffee shops, restaurateurs out of Dallas and the surrounding area. And
nice.
So you're starting to see the demographics change in Broken Bow, the expectations change in Broken Bow. And when people go there, it's not, hey, I just want to hang out at a cabin for a weekend. Hey, I want to go to a cabin, but I'd like to go have a nice glass of wine. I want to go get a good cup of coffee in the morning. I want to go to a restaurant and have a nice dinner while I'm in Broken Bow. So that is coming. It's going to be a process. It's in the works. You're already seeing developers take that step right now. Now, obviously, the challenge is going to be, can they find the labor there to run the restaurants, to run the coffee shops? Infrastructure as well. We all know it's a big thing, right? Is that in the works?
Traffic.
Yeah, it works, but we know infrastructure takes a while. And then let's go and throw into the mix the Choctaw Casino, right? That's going to create 2,200 new construction jobs now that residential that we're fighting with the Choctaws building. They started out as 100 room. I've already heard that they bumped it up to 250 rooms. They own 800 and some acres, right? So you look at all the economic tailwinds that are there with what was already there. And I mean, I think that the growth is, I'm not going to say in its infancy, but I still think it's early on. And then let's go ahead and layer in that it's an opportunity zone, right?
Yeah.
From a tax incentive, from tax standpoints, right? So now you're not just having the DFW is the main focal point and driver for Broken Bow, but let's throw in Houston, Louisiana, Oklahoma City, Tulsa. You're starting to see people from New York and these investment groups from around that where Broken Bow is on their radar, because if you look at it from a short-term rental cash flow standpoint, the numbers are off the charts, right? You go look at the Smokies in Chattanooga or some of those short-term rental places over in there. Broken Bow blows these places out of the water. So it's hitting the radar of a lot of these guys that are trying to play the tax strategy game with opportunity zones, where you're having from across the country people starting to look at Broken Bow. So it's not just a sleepy town anymore.
Yeah. And every year you go, it seems like there's something new that they've added there. There's another thing going on, and it's it is in its infancy. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that it already had the residential base there and that it's building into it. And so it's going to become more of a destination spot. Because if you've been out at the lake or you've been fly fishing down on the river or anything, like it's really nice. It's
Correct.
a neat place. And the temperature is a little less, it's a little less intense than what we get down here in the summer. You still get hot days and everything, but it's a great place for families, but it's also a great place, like to go with friends, to hang out and do things. And there's plenty of stuff going on there. And I think once that Choctaw Casino, it gets built, which is probably going to take, if they predicted, a 36 or 48 month build, it's probably going to take twice that. Like it's going to be one of those ongoing things. But when you add that into the mix, it's just, I think it's going to be almost like almost like a Vegas for the central portion of the U.S., because you do have, there's basically 5 metro cities that are close enough to it to where you can get there within 2.5 hours or 3 hours. Like that's huge. And it's going to be a great investment for a lot of people. Now,
I guess not to let me just interject quick, Dan, kind of while, when we're talking about the growth, is that there's chatter pretty close to the, which I just bought 30 acres and I'm platting it up into 26 1 to 1.5 acre lots that I'm going to be releasing here soon. But my point of that is pretty close to that, possibly walking distance. There's chatter of a larger fund that wants to come in and almost put like a clubhouse type concept with I want to say townhomes, condos ish. Say bocce ball courts, a spa, retail, restaurants, etc. So almost like a multi-use type facility there, right? So as you're starting to see the demographics change and what people's expectations and the amenities that they want, I think some of that is coming. Obviously, it's going to be a process, but there's a lot of people. It's not just your mom and pops anymore that are saying, "Hey, I'd love to own a second, a vacation rental house,
right,
for some extra mailbox money on the side." Right? You're starting to see real money, institutional funds with $500 million, $1 billion+ assets under management that are trying to plug into this opportunity zone fund or the opportunity zone and deploy $50, $100+ million projects into this area. So you have real money that's focusing on this area as well.
Yeah. So if you are the mom or pop or somebody trying to buy a second home,
you're getting priced out.
You're getting priced out. So now, it's like you got to act sooner than later. If you want to buy in Broken Bow, you want to have a cabin, you want to do something, like you're looking at, maybe you've got like a 6 to 12 month window to get it done, or you're going to get priced out.
I mean, the days of saying, "Hey, I want to go on a short-term VRBO or AirBNB, and I'm going to go up to Broken Bow and I'll be able to pick off a $500,000-$600,000 cabin, no problem." Those days are over, right? So really, you're 750 and below. We're almost getting priced out of that market as well. And I'd say probably a better comparison for Broken Bow on a smaller scale, if you will, is probably like a Branson, Missouri. Obviously we're not at that point yet, but more similarities to kind of like a Branson. A lot of people want to compare Broken Bow to some different areas, this or that, but I'd probably say Branson's a decent comparison.
Yeah, and Branson's a great spot. I went on a golf trip up there in 2020, like right in the middle of COVID, couple guys, and had a great time. And there's something about like just being out in the woods, like having bigger trees, hills, foothills around you. It's a scenery change. That's a welcome scenery change, because in Dallas, like everybody gets into the Dallas hustle. Dallas is work. It's business. It's like you're making. I think Dallas is one of the best networking cities in the country. Like just the way that people interact with each other. Yep. I mean, we got connected through business connections and became friends from it. And you see that more often in Dallas than I think most other places. And then you find ways that you can interact with each other, help each other's business, while also like being able to create a lifestyle out of your connections that you make. So
yeah, I think it's and I guess to your point, Dan, is I mean, as you know, is that kind of that's really how we ended up in Dallas.
Yeah.
We previously were in, my wife and I were in New York City. Then, when she first got pregnant, it was, we were tired of kind of the hustle and bustle of New York City, having kids. And that's when we kind of made, Dallas was a happy medium. It was a big city? Yes. It was centrally located. Was it New York? No, it wasn't New York. That's not necessarily what we wanted, but it kind of checked a lot of the boxes of the big city. And kind of to your point, it's, the restaurant scene's great. Obviously business is good here, being a home builder. Being on the lending side and kind of the connections and network and that's available here.
Yeah, and it's I consider you a Texan now. I know you're always gonna feel like you're from Mississippi, but you've assimilated into the culture here, and you're a central figure in the real estate community. You do a lot of cool things. Your builds, like you mentioned that you have expectations. I think you build one of the highest quality homes in town. And I haven't been up to the Broken Bow cabins. We're going to have to make a trip up there sometime soon. But I can only imagine what the quality looks like on those. And I just want to say to anybody that's watching the show, Collin, if he's got a house listed and you're in that price point, take a look at it, because he builds one of the best houses in Dallas, and I know the quality level that he upkeeps. Collin, if somebody wants to reach out to you and look at the Broken Bow side, are you doing any resale on those Broken Bow cabins, or are you holding on everything y'all do? Yeah.
So, and I guess I see scrolling at the bottom, Dan, it's Fairmont. It's FAIRMONT. There's no U in there. You can go to my website or on Instagram, or there's a contact button through the website if you want more information on Broken Bow. I think really with me, it's a moving target. My intentions were the handful that I have for my company, my development company right now, are for short-term rentals. I've kind of transitioned that. I'm probably going to sell half of them, if not a little bit more, now that I purchased that 30 acres, and I'm going to plat 26 lots. I'm going to be releasing some of the lots. I'll probably keep some for myself. So really for me, it's a moving target. And it's kind of an interesting conundrum to be in, is that yes, being a builder, yes, you can build your own product at cost, but at the end of the day, by the time I go through the process and by the time I get to the end of that, I'm ready to look at it again.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that kind of goes into the equation of a short-term rental. By the time I get done building those, and let's throw in the mix, I'm building 10 customs for other people up in Broken Bow. Like, I'm kind of ready to move on to the next project.
The next project.
So to answer your question short, is that yes, I am open to selling some of them. There's probably a couple that I'm going to keep, and then I'll be releasing those lots as well. So
cool. Well, I'm excited about the development. We'll have to go check it out. I mean, that's a market I'm interested in myself. I own second home in another market, and that's just seeing what's going on there and knowing what's coming down the pipeline. It's really, really cool to see what you guys are doing and seeing you guys bring that all together. So I really appreciate you coming on today. I mean, your wealth of knowledge. I mean, from your whole experience, we didn't get into your full background, but everything that you've done from when you were in New York to the home building side of things now, you're one of the smartest guys I know in the business. And, for you to share some information with people that are watching the show, I really appreciate it, man. Always grateful for your insight and you just like spreading some knowledge because
absolutely, Dan. And hey, I would like to leave it with one thing, because I think this is kind of important to really the way kind of when I do business and selling houses, because I would imagine you have real estate agents and so forth that listen in on this podcast.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them don't think it matters, or they think that at the end of the day the builder is just there, right, to churn and burn and sell a product.
Right.
To me, in the pride that I take in my product, relationships matter. When I have buyers that come to me in a multiple offer situation, which in this market is the standard, as you mentioned earlier, somebody that an agent that has a relationship with my agent or comes to me and gives me the story of the family and who they are, where they're from, that stuff matters to me at the end of the day, right? I mean, obviously, yes, you want to sell it for top dollar, but at the end of the day, someone's backstory that appreciates the product that I build, right? Because after you sell a house, the relationship's not over, right?
Right.
I put a warranty on the house. You're there, right? We all know new construction problems happen, whether you want them to or not. It's the nature of the beast. Things happen. The relationship's not over the day you close on that house.
That's right.
That's an integral part of my business, and that matters to me. The backstory and the agents that have relationships with me or with the agents that represent me. So I'll kind of leave it at that. I know it's a frustrating market. There's pent up demand. But those things matter.
Yeah. I 100% agree. This is, it's more, relationships are more important than they've ever been, and having people you trust around you, going to agents that know the markets. I mean, that's key information. And I know that you value the agent relationship, where a lot of people have just kind of gone by the wayside, or they're trying to do things to remove the agent from the equation. Where I think everybody should be diving into it. Then now is more important to have a great real estate agent partner on your side. It's more important now than it has probably ever been. And it's going to make a difference for us all long term. And, I love that you appreciate that fact and that you appreciate relationships, because they do matter. Navigating a tough situation, like you said, whether it's like in the transaction, post-transaction, listing, buying, having those relationships where you can count on somebody that's a pro and is going to help you navigate it. It's more important than ever. So that's a great parting piece of wisdom. As always, man, I really appreciate you. I know it's taking time out of your day. You don't get really anything out of this besides sharing some wealth of knowledge that you've accumulated over time. And it is very insightful, and I appreciate everything that you shared with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Dan.
All right, brother. I'll see you soon.
All right.